in for Beck today on the Beck Program, the last show of the year. And we're going out with a bang. At least we're attempting to. What is the biggest story of 2022? One of the questions I'm asking this morning. Got a lot of great answers so far. 888-727-BECK. 888-727-BECK. B-E-C-K. And then the other question I have for you is predictions. Like, what is your prediction for the coming year? Seeing all the craziness that we've seen the last few years, what do you predict coming out? And I'll keep track of these. And if I have the honor of filling in again, I think I did this show last year for Glenn and the team. So if I honor of filling in again next year around this time, we'll pull out some of these predictions and see if you nailed them. All right. So let me get to a couple of those real quickly. Let me do Samuel in Virginia first. Sam, appreciate you joining us this morning. The Beck Program.
Yes, hello. Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
What's your biggest story of the year, Sam? Looks like we're losing Sam. If you get a better connection, you can call us back. We'll try Glenn in Ohio. Your biggest story of the year, and you have a prediction to make too, Glenn?
Yes, I do. I think the biggest story of the year is an administration that facilitates actively and knowingly the commitment of high crimes and misdemeanors at the southern border.
Yeah.
And my prediction is that all of the negative information regarding COVID, the sudden deaths and heart attacks and 35-year-olds just dropping dead all over the place, the media is going to hold their powder with that information until Donald Trump gets into the next election cycle.
And will they use it against him at that point?
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
Interesting.
The question is going to...
Uh-oh, Glenn, I think I lost you there. Yeah, that's okay. Sometimes we have that with the cell phones. But, it's a very interesting point. You see a shift in the narrative sort of changing with the COVID, the Rona report, et cetera. You're seeing that shift happen. Little sort of cracks in the armor, so to speak, or in the dam. It drips and drops, and then eventually that thing breaks. And will they then use the very thing? Pretty much some of the folks in the media are responsible for some of this. In fact, I got a report, some of the things coming out of China right now and across the world. China's got a whole... It basically proves that lockdowns didn't work. I mean, what's happening right now in China basically proves that lockdowns are just completely in effect. Not only that, but they may have done more to damage this country from a health perspective. And then you get into the economics of it and what the kids went through and how many excess deaths we had and then everything else on top of it and the folks who are dying suddenly and unexpectedly right now. Holy cow. Yeah, and you talk about a story. Speaking of those lockdowns, and the story. In fact, there's some good news to some of the horror stories. You've heard them all that have come throughout the last couple of years. A few states really had it bad. Not many nearly as bad as we did here in Michigan. I'm broadcasting in Grand Rapids in West Michigan. At WOOD, that's a news radio with 1,300 and 106.9 FM. And, of course, my honor and pleasure to be here with you. But one of the stories coming out of Michigan was the restaurants that were shut down and the businesses that were crippled and people lost them. Of course, you've got what happened to the kids. But one of the business owners decided to stand his ground. He would not back down. His name's Ian Murphy. He owns the Iron Pig in Gaylord in Michigan. Ian joins us right now. Talk a little bit about what he went through. But there's some good news that he's going to share today, too. He just won a big fight. And I think it's important for us to hear this, not just here in Michigan, but across the country when it comes to standing up for what's important and, of course, your principles. Ian, appreciate you joining us on the Beck Program.
Good morning, Justin. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So let's walk through this. There was a time, Ben Gretchen Whitmer, the governor here, the Wolverine Queen, as they call her. She was making these edicts about places like restaurants, particular, that were really under fire. In fact, you could eat inside, but only if the inside was outside. There was a time they had these igloos set up and these little outdoor huts, and it was just insanity. And people that were able to think critically at the time were saying that. What are you doing to our restaurants? Some of these places just went through hell and back and barely made it, but you decided you were going to stand up through it all. What did that look like for you?
It's been a crazy journey for the last just over 2 years now.
Yeah.
When they shut down restaurants again, end of November, just before Thanksgiving in 2020, we stayed closed for the first week, waiting, for some kind of news, some kind of aid package, something. And, all the lawmakers and governor and everybody decided to go on Thanksgiving vacation and just, basically left us out to flap in the wind. So I just kind of, we had originally, a buddy of mine and I, we were actually in the middle of putting up wrapping paper on the front windows, and we were going to kind of go under the radar. And I just decided, this just doesn't feel right. So I called the health department, our local health officer, and said, tomorrow, the day before Thanksgiving, which is, one of the biggest bar nights of the year, I said, listen, we're going to go out of business if this keeps up like this. So you're kind of forcing us to open back up. And that's what we did. And the next morning at about 11:15, the health department was there with a cease and desist. They wasted no time. And then the Liquor Commission followed that, and then the Department of Agriculture followed that. OSHA followed that as well.
I mean, they were bringing the full force of government down on you, and every vice and grip they could find to tighten on you, they were trying to get you from all angles, weren't they?
Yeah, and they knew from the beginning that those of us that have liquor licenses, those are coveted. So they knew that they could use that as the hammer over those of us with those licenses. And they were very, very effective at doing that. And ultimately, they kind of used us as an example and suspended my liquor license for 90 days and gave me a $600 fine. What we would find out later on is that January 6th of 2020, while we were still open against the health department orders, but not serving liquor, we had surrendered our liquor license. We had taken the fine. We were still under the suspension order. They came back in January 6th, 2021, and did an undercover sting. Now, this is the Liquor Commission, and cited us again with another violation, basically for just being open. They didn't cite us for serving alcohol without a license.
So it had nothing to do with liquor. It's just the fact that you were open. The governor said you should. And by the way, I should also mention here, folks, that the Michigan State Supreme Court at one point, they ruled on this, and that what the governor had ordered at one point, these shutdowns and whatnot, that they were illegal. They were unconstitutional. She then moved to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services without her mantle. And by the way, this woman got reelected in a state. I have no idea how that happened. But Ian,
this is and found that she had actually been using the emergency orders of the health department law that we ended up challenging in court and got ruled unconstitutional, just like the Supreme Court ruling you're referencing. And the majority of our case stems from that certified questions October 2020 Supreme Court case, and got a brilliant ruling from Judge Hunter right here, literally across the street from the Iron Pig in circuit court. Mm-hmm. So we went through various things, the health department, Dana Nessel's office, the attorney general, they appealed Judge Hunter's ruling. They went right up to the Supreme Court. They tried to bypass the Court of Appeals. So the Supreme Court has actually chimed in on this, and they said they view it as certified questions, the sequel. Now, a lot of things have happened in the last 60 days. One of the big ones was they gave up their appeal, which they were appealing Judge Hunter's ruling to the Court of Appeals. They gave up that appeal. So that's a big win. But just recently, I received a letter from the Liquor Commission via Dana Nessel's office, which has some sort of gambling and liquor division, apparently. And this nice little letter said, we are no longer going to be seeking charges against you for the January 6, 2021 alleged violation. No further action at this time. So they gave up their appeal on Judge Hunter's unconstitutional ruling, and then they gave up. So the other thing that they had holding over us was this other liquor license violation. So they just gave that up last week.
So this is a big win. It would sound like under your belt in this battle to stand your ground, stand up for running your business and to be open to feed the folks there in Michigan. But not only that, but to feed your family. This is a big deal, but this isn't it. You've stood up, you've stood your ground here. Ian Murphy, the Iron Pig in Michigan, smokehouse. You risk it for the brisket.
Yes, sir.
and it worked out. Apparently, you guys are fighting back, though you're doing something else. There is a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, so the end goal really for us is to make sure that the unconstitutional ruling is ultimately upheld by the Supreme Court. So that's one thing. The other thing that we want to do is hold some people accountable. And you know as well as I do that money talks. And right now what we're attempting to do is form a class action lawsuit to take to the Court of Claims and sue Gretchen Whitmer, Dana Nessel, Bob Gordon, and Elizabeth Hertel in their official capacities as it relates to the use of this now unconstitutional law in Michigan. And by the way, Justin, they're still using this health order, this emergency order right now for vaccine mandates in nursing homes. So we're going on almost 3 years now that they'll, coming in March, it'll be 3 years that they're using this health order that is now unconstitutional.
Yeah.
But they're still doing it.
Ian Murphy and the Iron Pig Smokehouse in Michigan standing up, fighting back. So we're going to have to wait to see how the class action plays out. I know you're not slowing down anytime soon. I don't get that feeling. I just want to ask you, because this is not a Michigan issue. This is an issue that folks all around the country are having to fight, to struggle, to battle with over the last couple of years. But I think even more so as we get into the years to come. We're at the cusp of a new year here. None of this is going away anytime soon. What do you say to folks who are deciding probably it's...
I was raised a certain way to challenge authority, usually in a respectful way. But at the end of the day, it really was, like you said, it was for my family. It was for our family here, our employees at the Iron Pig. And it was a risk that we had to take. And at the end of the day, I would have rather had stood up for what I believed in, which was these things were wrong and there was certainly a better way to go about it. And I would say to everybody that is listening that might be in or see themselves in a situation like this moving forward, don't give up. Stand up for yourself. We did, and it paid off. Our customers have come in droves. 2021 was our best year on record. 22 was outstanding. 2023 looks to be even better, and we're hoping to expand. But what I do want to say real quick while I've got you is anybody in Michigan that is looking to join our lawsuit, our class action lawsuit, to go to fight4michigan.com. There's a form you can fill out to join. Anybody that is looking to join this class action should go to fight4michigan.com. And let's get as many restaurants at least as we can. Some gyms have already signed up as well. But we're going to start to sift through this information and figure out and form the best class that we can so we can go sue the pants off the people responsible for destroying the restaurant industry in this state. And still are. There's an employee minimum wage law that's being enacted here pretty soon that's just going to destroy our industry.
Ian Murphy, the fight continues. The IronPigSmokehouse.com. We appreciate you taking the time. If you're in the area there in Gaylord, Michigan, or you're coming through on vacation, stop in. Ian, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for continuing to fight.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate everything.
You got it. God bless. There you go, folks. Just one of the folks that's decided to stand up. Talking to you next, 888-727-BECK, B-E-C-K. Biggest story of the year, predictions for next year. We'll get into it all. Justin Barclay in today for Glenn on the Glenn Beck Program.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Ever since he... Sirius